Hello, welcome to Week 3 of the Society Racing League, brought to you by gameplay by Ardubich and courtesy of Trackday Manager by Arctic Hazard Game Studio. Today we have the highlights from our 4-race event, but first let's check on the standings from last week. Starting our event in first place is Hicklin with 140 points. In second is Botswana Racing with 124 points. In third place is Luga Racing Team with 60 points. In fourth place is Sligo with 51 points. In fifth place is Prime RT with 50 points. In sixth place is Senile Stock Ltd with 44 points. Seventh place is PSL Racing with 34 points. Eighth place is Ghost Racing with 10 points. Ninth place, CE Racing with -4 points. 10th place is ESP Racing with -6 points. And with -8 points, in 11th is Union Dynamics, 12th AMT, 13th Lotus, 14th Minardi Racing, 15th Team Rydal. There is one change to make today, as Team Rydal drops to Division 2 due to no-shows, and CGA Racing will take his place in Division 1. Here are the highlights from the first race of today's 4-race event. At the end of the first lap, it's PSL Racing with a huge lead over CGA Racing for first place. Meanwhile, Lugo Racing Team is in 4th, and Ghost Racing is in 5th. Into the 5th lap now, CGA Racing, PSL Racing, and Ghost Racing all head into the pits while Luga Racing Team stays out. After leading the race for a couple laps, Luga Racing Team finally enters the pits in the 7th lap, giving up the lead to PSL Racing. On the final lap, crossing the finish line in first place is PSL Racing. Meanwhile, CGA Racing and Luga Racing Team have a photo finish at the end, with CGA Racing just barely beating out Luga Racing Team. Ghost Racing will eventually cross the finish line in 4th place. So our league standings after 9 races look like this. Hicklin remains in first place with 139 points. In second is Botswana Racing with 123 points. Gaining ground in third place is Luga Racing Team with 76 points. In fourth is PSL Racing with 54 points. In fifth is Sligo Racing with 50 points. In sixth is Prime RT with 49 points. In seventh is Senile Stock Ltd with 43 points. Eighth is Ghost Racing with 23 points. Ninth is CGA Racing with 10 points. 10th is CE Racing with -5 points. In 11th is ESP Racing with -7 points. With -9 points in 12th is Union Dynamics, 13th AMT, 14th Lotus, and 15th is Minardi Racing. Now on to our second race of our 4-race event for today. Trouble in the first turn of the race allows Luga Racing Team to take an early lead. Later in the first lap, a huge wreck sends cars flying over the barrier. After a chaotic first lap, Luga Racing Team is able to take a commanding lead. Heading into the 6th lap, our race leaders, including Luga Racing Team and CGA Racing, head to the pits. Ghost Racing is able to take advantage of the other team's pitting and moves into first place. After leading most of the race, Luga Racing Team will hold on to win in commanding fashion. And our league standings after 10 races are as follows. In first place is Hicklin with 138 points, and in second is Botswana Racing with 124 points. Though because of no-shows in this event, both are losing ground to third place Luga Racing Team, who has 96 points. In fourth is PSL Racing with 55 points, and in fifth is Sligo Racing with 49 points. In sixth is Prime RT with 48 points. Seventh is Senile Stock Ltd with 42 points. Eighth is Ghost Racing with 36 points. Ninth is CGA Racing with 26 points. 10th is CE Racing with -7 points. In 11th is ESP Racing with -8 points. And with -10 points, in 12th is Union Dynamics, 13th AMT, 14th Lotus, and 15th Minardi Racing. Our third race of the day is from the same track as the second, but with much better weather conditions. And right off the bat, Luga Racing Team takes a commanding lead to start the race. Going through the lap on the second lap of the race, Senile Stock Ltd experiences car troubles, which pulls him off the pace of the field. As we head into the 6th lap, our race leader Luger Racing Team heads into the pits. He will then be joined by CGA Racing and eventually Ghost Racing. Luger Racing Team entered the pits with a huge lead. That, along with the quick pit stop, allowed the team to get out of the pits as the other competitors were entering. This would allow Luger Racing Team to maintain a lead over his competitors even though he pit. His efficiency in the pits would pay off, as on the final lap he crosses the finish line in first place with CGA Racing in second place. So after 11 races, Hicklin remains in first place with 137 points and Botswana in second with 121 points, but the no-shows are starting to affect them, as in third place is Luger Racing Team with 116 points catching up. In fourth place is PSL Racing with 55 points, fifth place is Ghost Racing with 49 points, sixth place is Sligo with 48 points, seventh place is Proim R2 with 47 points, in eighth place is CGA Racing with 44 points, ninth place is Senile Stock Ltd with 43 points, and in 10th place is CE Racing with -7 points. In 11th place is ESP Racing with -9 points, and rounding out the field with -11 points is Union Dynamics in 12th. In 13th, AMT, 14th, Lotus, and in 15th is Minardi Racing. And the final race to conclude today's event takes place in a thunderstorm. After coming out of the first turn, Luger Racing Team is able to jump out to a commanding lead. In the 7th lap, Luger Racing Team foregoes the pits as CGA Racing decides to stop. This allows Luger Racing Team to build a commanding lead, but will it hold? Fast forward a lap later, PSL Racing is in the pits, and he finishes and is able to leave as Luger Racing Team enters them. In the 8th lap now, Luger Racing Team is in second, while most of the field enters the pits, including Ghost Racing. Though most of the middle positions of the pack are shuffled up here, the top 4 positions of the leaderboard remain the same. Following the leader pitting, Luger Racing Team would take over first place, followed by CGA Racing. Then coming out of the final turn on the last lap is Luger Racing Team crossing the finish line in first, followed by CGA Racing in second. PSL Racing would finish third, with Ghost Racing finishing fourth. So after 12 races and with just 4 more races to go, 1 more weekend left in the season, our standings shape up like this. The no-shows hurt our top 2 competitors, as now tied for first place is Hicklin and Luger Racing Team with 136 points, and moving into third place is Botswana Racing with 120 points. In fourth is PSL Racing with 71 points. Tied for fifth is Ghost Racing and CGA Racing, both with 62 points. In seventh is Sligo with 47 points. In eighth is Proim RT with 46 points. In ninth is Senile Stock Ltd with 42 points. In 10th is CE Racing with -8 points. In 11th is ESP Racing with -10 points. And rounding out our field with -12 points is in 12th Union Dynamics, 13th AMT, 14th Lotus, and 15th Minardi Racing. Anything can happen as we head into our last event, our last 4 races. Hicklin and Luger Racing Team enter in a tie for first place, both with 136 points, and Botswana Racing isn't far behind them with 120 points. 4th through 6th is still really close, with only 9 points separating the positions. 7th through 9th is even closer, with only 5 points separating those 3 positions. Join us next weekend for our final event of the September season and find out who wins, who finishes where, who can win these point battles. On behalf of Gameplay by Ardubich and courtesy of Trackday Manager by Arctic Hazard Game Studios, thank you for joining us for Week 3 of the September 2015 season of Society Racing League.